What's good with you guys? It's Jibril, and I'm gonna give you 6 things you need to know about white people. So the first thing you need to know about white people is that they are liars. They are pathological liars that lie in order to attain what they desire, which is mainly control. They also lie to protect their image and their self-esteem. That's why they create movies and TV shows portraying themselves as a hero, because in reality they have been a catalyst to the worst atrocities to ever materialize. They have purposefully denigrated melanated skin, giving off the impression that there is something inherently wrong and unappealing about melanin, when in actuality, melanin actually costs more than gold. Not just that, but it protects you from the sun, it helps you age slow, and it's a dominant phenotype. In fact, human beings wouldn't even exist if the sperm and egg didn't form melanin before it collided. However, when you are unwell, or even close to death, your skin goes pale. And when black parents birth albinos end up dealing with blindness as well as other illnesses. But the same doesn't apply for when white parents birth black babies. Also, albinism is inherited in an autosomal recessive manner, meaning both copies of a gene in each cell have mutations, similar to how white skin derived from a mutation. They have also given off the impression as if Africa was never civilized, when in reality it was more civilized than Europe at one point in time. In fact, Africa actually civilized Europe twice. One of the biggest lies they tell black people is that skin color doesn't matter, and we are all the same. When lighter skin is recessive, whilst darker skin is more dominant, and white skin derives from a mutation. White people are genetically the weakest race group as well as Native Americans, and unlike black people, every other race group is related to Neanderthals. And according to one white scientist, he claims that we are the only 100% pure human beings. And despite black people being compared to chimpanzees and monkeys, with white people creating the speculation that black people descended from monkeys, when in fact they are actually first cousins to chimpanzees, monkeys and apes. Black people are not related to monkeys, chimpanzees or apes whatsoever. They also propagate and fabricate homosexuality being natural, where homosexuality is linked with dark personality traits associated with narcissism, psychopathy and Machiavellianism. Scientists also cast doubt on the idea that same-sex sexual attraction evolved as a consequence of sociability in humans and other animals. In fact, there is no evidence to suggest that homosexuals actually born homosexuals. Emotional and sexual abuse is heavily linked with the roots to homosexuality. And not just white people, but Arabs would openly and heavily engage in homosexual activity. And you can find proof amongst the Anglo-Saxons, the Greeks and the Romans. They also birthed the belief that black people are inherently doltish and incompetent, when there was a study in Germany over 20 years ago where it tested black children and white children's IQs just to end up being the same. And I surmise that one of the main reasons why black children today are failing in school is due to black people not prioritizing education. But they lied to everyone, including us, that we're just born dumb. They have blatantly lied about Jesus' skin complexion. He was never white, he was actually a dark brown Jewish person. They have also lied about the Irish being slaves when they were actually servants. And they clearly lied about Christopher Columbus being the first person to discover the USA, when it's actually believed to be the Native Americans. But some people actually believe that black people were the first people to step foot in the US. But the biggest lie they've convinced black people is that they have accepted us and will accept us. When less than 15% of white people would approve their family members dating a black person, they still don't give us the equal opportunity, and there are numerous amount of studies to suggest that every white person is racist and prejudiced. So for a white person to tell a black person that they are racist is a lie within itself. I guarantee you that if black people received an equal opportunity today, we would do better than any other race group. But they will never admit that they're dishonest and give us the answers that we deserve. And there was a study that suggested that white people actually find black people more trustworthy than white people themselves. That leads on to my second thing that you have to understand about white people, and that is that they are hypocrites. How can you tell everybody that you are against criminals when white men with a criminal history have a higher chance of finding themselves a job than black men with no criminal history? You ridicule and condemn black people for making one mistake, but can find every excuse for your people's poor behavior. White people claim to be against rapists, but they made it permissible by law to allow themselves to rape whatever black slave they wanted to rape. And instead of supporting and reforming criminals, you allow them to act in a criminal fashion in prison. Let's not forget the fact that black people were considered non-human beings by law that they created. And you give black people longer prison sentences than white people, despite them both committing the same crime. You have purloined an ample amount of valuable resources from Africa, but you guys would get angry if we robbed you. You guys were behind the assassinations of Martin Luther King, Patrice Lumumba and Malcolm X, but have employed any assassination attempts on any KKK members or any members of the EDL. You displayed condemnation against Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby and O.J. Simpson, but you had nothing to say for Jimmy Savile, Woody Allen and Elvis Presley up until they died. And it's crazy to me how Jonathan Major's career has been cancelled due to false allegations by a white woman. But you are pleading Cameron Herring to be freed from prison, who murdered a whole family. And that's only because you only seek justice for you guys. I bet there's an overwhelming amount of white parents, just like the Menendez brothers' parents. But you shine the light on all the wrongdoings every black person commits so you could get away with all the evil deeds you guys have committed. Like to accuse me of all sorts when there are a ton of you white people out here committing the things that I've been falsely accused of. But you don't want to bat an eye at your own people. Like to stare at me and follow me around like you're in love with me or something. Like some fucking weirdos. But if I did the same thing, then you guys would be batting an eye. But yeah, the third thing you need to realize about white people is that they're insecure. They secretly envy black people's genetic strength and diversity. You guys fear losing control, considering the fact that you guys are one of the genetically weakest race groups. And globally speaking, you guys are a minority due to you guys being melanin deficient. And again, melanin costs more than gold. You fear an intelligent and firm black man in particular, willing to stand up against the corrupt system you guys created in order to prevent black people from prospering. They don't want black people to unite and figure out who they truly are, in fear of us retaliating. Which, if we really wanted to retaliate, we would have done it a long time ago. Witnessing black people unified and unreliable of white people is something you guys definitely don't desire. You want us to be last place and perceive you guys as the superior race. White people create a false image of themselves for the most part being good and tend to deflect from the truth when it comes to who they really are, because white people themselves aren't comfortable with who they really are. You guys have a superiority complex, and a superiority complex actually derives from an inferiority complex. The reason why I believe white men would allow themselves to sleep with black women in particular during slavery, but disallow black men from sleeping with white women was due to them feeling insecure about the thought of their females being dominated by black men. Also, a father's genes is actually more dominant than the mother's genes. Our presence makes them feel insecure and has them questioning themselves. And the reason why white people can't accept the fact that they are genetically recessive mutants is due to the fact that they can't alter the amount of melanin they possess in their skin, as well as being placed in a hostile environment, i.e. the Ice Age, where nature never treated you well. White people barely rest and aren't at peace with themselves, constantly looking for conflict and chaos due to their pineal gland being calcified, with 60 to 80% of their pineal glands being calcified. And that leads up to the fourth thing black people need to realize about white people, and that is that they desire control. They are constantly on the move, seeking control. They want to be in control with anything they can get their hands on. They want to control the world. That's why they're constantly monitoring everybody's footsteps and movements, and that is to ensure that nothing is out of place. And they're always watching black males, ensuring no future Malcolm X arises out of nowhere and changes the dynamic of black people's situation. That's why white people constantly feel the need to include themselves in anything that has to do with black people, and that is to ensure black people aren't strategizing against other white people and the white power structure. That's why you colonized and robbed Africa of its resources with no remorse. Now black people are made to believe that just because one white person committed one good deed for you, you owe them your whole life, and you're supposed to believe that they aren't racist and that they care about black people. Adolf Hitler did good things, and he was very much a racist. They might care about individuals that are black, but when it comes to the whole race, they don't care about the black race. And if you don't believe me, then go and have a white person falsely accuse you, and let's see if all your white friends stick around. The only reason why they're nice to you and commit all these good deeds for other black people is due to them wanting something in return. The reason why they're so persistent and will never let go is because if they stop, then there's a possibility of everything crashing. That's why they won't stop, because they can't stop. Because if they do stop, then everything will collapse. The white power structure's primary goal for melanated people is to have melanated skin dissipate. They desire to have black people gone for good, so they don't have to worry about black people ever again. The more power white people possess, the more secure they are. So they will do anything in their power to seek control of everything surrounding them. The fifth thing black people need to understand about white people is that they love to use black sellouts. They utilize black sellouts in order to win over other black people, as well as to have other black people believe that they aren't racist. Again, they might care about the individual or even black individuals, but when it comes to the entire race, they don't care about the race. Exceptions don't disprove the rule. They merely utilize black sellouts for their own profit. And the harsh truth that these black sellouts don't want to accept is that they could care less about exploiting you. They are simply impersonating as if they do care in order to gravitate other black people towards them instead of their own people. Now, I believe our substantial sellouts have to be black celebrities, black immigrants, and black gangsters. What these three groups share amongst each other is that they lack racial loyalty and are extremely narcissistic. I believe the major cause for a black person to become a sellout is self-hatred. They hate themselves and anything that has to do with black people because they have been traumatized, betrayed, and abused by black people themselves. They have been offended by our own people and help our enemies believing that they are better off doing so. I believe there is nothing worse than a sellout, and they deserve to be treated with more hostility than our enemies. The sixth thing black people need to realize about white people is that they are intimidated by black people. They secretly fear black people, but the black people they fear the most are the intelligent and formidable black people willing to take a stand against the white power structure that's contributing to holding us back. They are intimidated by firm black men and women. That's why they prepare themselves and collect as much information on the black person or black people they might possibly confront beforehand. The reason why white people feel comfortable provoking black people just for white people to act like a victim when the black person acts in a negative fashion is because they have police officers and soldiers that are predominantly white that wouldn't hesitate to beat up a black person whenever they get the chance, and are only willing to take on a black person when they are at a disadvantage. They do all this because they are scared of you. They outnumber you because they're scared of you. We were considered to be the most feared race group to ever exist at one point in time, and if black people wanted to colonize and mistreat white people the way they did with us, with the formidable empires we had at the time, we could have. But we didn't. In fact, there's a belief that one reason why Europeans colonized Africa was due to Europeans having the fear of Africans colonizing Europe. But instead, we went out of our way to civilize them twice. And I believe we should have never done that. They're trying to create confusion in black people's heads. And the reason why they're trying to cause confusion amongst black people's minds is because when you are confused about a certain issue, you are uncertain with how to deal with it and how to feel about it. So when you are presented with this certain issue, it can create fear and a lack of confidence. It's not the things that you are certain of that fear you the most. It's the things that you are uncertain of that fear you the most. They are trying to have black people believe that they are utterly brave and competent, when in reality, they aren't as brave and as competent as you may believe. Remember, they are human beings. Well, they're not 100% human beings like black people, but they're still human beings nonetheless with emotions. But due to them utilizing the media to create this image of them being so formidable, the image they have created themselves and portrayed alone has invoked black people into believing that they are almost omnipotent. They never created infrastructures and this society to benefit everybody. They created infrastructures and this society to benefit themselves. The last thing white people want black people doing is uniting and seeking revenge against white people. And if they were so benevolent as they portray themselves to be, then they wouldn't be the leading cause to a large portion of the disasters invoked by human beings. The moment black people are willing to stand up against white people is the moment white people will begin to panic. They utilize violence to keep us in place, but expect black people to resolve our situation through peaceful protests. But here's the thing, if you want certain behaviors to stop, then there has to be consequences, because behaviors can only get better or worse. So if you want white people to quit mistreating us and disrespecting us, then there has to be violent consequences, because unfortunately, some white people's egos are so high that they feel untouchable. So you have to engage in violent conflict with them. If a black person wants to retaliate in a violent manner towards a white person, they will be penalized severely by the law because of it. That's why black people need to come together and insulate our own people. Because frankly, white people don't care about what you have to say, and so you have to physically harm them just to have them understand how solemn you are. I believe everybody has the right to defend themselves. And the seventh and last thing that black people need to understand about white people is that they will never change for black people. Calling out white people's true nature will invoke them to change. In fact, they are fully aware of their true nature, but I already acknowledged that, considering the fact that the only person that can change you is yourself. But black people have an ounce of hope that they can change white people's hearts and views on black people. But you can't, because racism is inherent and interchangeable, meaning that once white people inherently develop a racial bias, then it can never disappear. They have been designed to prioritize their own people and place their race above anybody else. And black people need to accept this, but they can't. And the only method that will have the majority accept that fact is if white people themselves tell you the truth. But white people already comprehend that black people desire the truth from white people, but they don't tell you the truth because white people might want to use a black person they might deem useful to them. So they leave you confused, wondering if you are just the problem. So quit seeking acceptance from white people because they have never accepted you and will never accept you. Also, Martin Luther King's dream will never exist because white people don't want black men in particular impregnating their women and annihilating their whole race. And that's why we will never truly integrate. But overall, white people are a highly narcissistic group of people that love chaos. And I believe black people would be better off if white people never existed in the first place. If they were more honest and less forceful, then I'd have a lot more respect for white people. But of course, it's not the case. But anyway, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, peace, and take care of yourselves. I'm out.